Hey, 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 Mom Nation, and welcome back to the very last episode of 2025 of Untying the Knot with Miranda and I. We are here. We are talking divorces. Hello, my favorite co host. How are you?
Hello, good. How are you?
Awesome. So nice to have you here as always. So I'm just going to head right into it. We are
hmm
in the holiday season. We are smack dab in the middle of it. If you're anything like me, it came up quickly for you. It was just like, oh, and it's the holidays. And I always know this is going to happen every single year, except for it seems to surprise me every single year. I guess I'm like a goldfish. What's that song? The little plastic
Just keep
castle
swimming.
surprises me every
Oh,
time.
oh yeah. I went to just keep swimming. I don't know why.
That too. That's isn't that Nemo, Dory?
Yeah. hmm
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so the holidays kind of add an extra layer to things, do they not?
hmm
Like
Yeah, I
they're
do.
not only like, let's go back to childhood, right, Miranda? We always love to do that.
hmm
Like, not only are we dealing with potentially our own stuff, our own emotions, our own whatevers that the holidays might bring up, but now we're navigating a new life situation potentially.
hmm
Maybe it's our very first holiday fresh off of a divorce. Maybe we're in the
hmm
middle of a divorce right now. Maybe we're just thinking about it and kind of testing the waters through the holidays, setting up boundaries, that kind of thing, just to see what that might look like.
hmm
And I kind of wanted to talk through all three,
Okay.
if you would. Now, for me, for those of you out there who know my story and know Miranda's story, when I went through my divorce, I did not have children. So,
hmm
speaking from experience, in terms of navigating with the kiddos and, navigating that time through the holidays and sharing that time with your ex is not something I can really speak from experience, but I know that you can, Miranda. So I appreciate having you here, bringing that extra perspective because kiddos add an extra huge layer to things, right? Like it's no longer about
Sure
us
do.
anymore.
Yeah, and that's, the physical, the planning of it, the scheduling, that's the emotional toll and trying to make sure that you can put everything together for them still and handle everything. And then the guilt that you have for not being with them. And then mental, that's just the taxing of money, maybe financial. It's just a million things.
Yeah, definitely a million things. And it can seem so overwhelming. And it is. It truly just is
Yeah.
overwhelming. What I went through, so I was considering a split during the holidays, and I actually ended up going through it like in March.
hmm
Of that following year. So, December and March, they're not too far apart. So I was certainly going through it. And something that I thought was really important to mention for those mamas out there that might be in that same space that I was and we're sliding into the holiday season is to, maybe you're still debating whether or not this could work, whether, it really needs to be a split or what, like maybe you're still there. And I started to notice when I was over functioning during that time to keep
hmm
the holidays normal.
Yeah.
How
Keep
many
up
times do you see that with your people that you talk with?
all the time. I do it. I catch myself doing it sometime.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I wrote down, because I thought when you and I talked about this, I thought, I'm going to write down some of the things that like I remember going through during the holidays. One of them is wanting to maintain some sort of traditions, things that you guys did as a whole family, or things maybe you did as a child that you started with them that you want to maintain, and then also maybe creating new traditions with your kids. And it not necessarily being about we have to do this, we have to do this thing, we have to do this thing. Just like what will make us all feel together and
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
instead of the expectation of. That's what we do with anything, like with family. What am I, do I have to go to three functions? Do we need to do this thing? Is this what I'm doing because I feel like I have to, I'm
Mhm.
obligated? Or is this because it's what we really want to enjoy the holiday and make the most of it?
Totally agree. And I love what you just said about starting your own tradition because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this could be a time. So, what we're talking about right now is somebody who's kind of considering things, right? Or
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
feeling like it might go that route. But this could be a time where you do put that extra boundary in place and see how that
Mm-hmm.
falls.
Mm-hmm. And it can be hard. I've done this with my own family. Um, me not feeling the support, or me not feeling comfortable, which goes back to my childhood and never really feeling like kind of feeling out of place and kind of
Yeah.
not. And I have felt that, and no like shade against anyone, no like punishment to anybody else, just like what feels the best for you. And for me, in the last 5 years, it has really been me and my kids.
Yeah.
That time with them has been more important to me than anything. And that's when I feel like the magic of the holiday. That's when I
Yeah.
feel like, and that may change in a year from now or 5 years from now if I have a new family or something like that, but for post-divorce me, that's been the best thing, is um, creating those experiences with them and figuring out how we say, you know what, I'm just going to do something with my kids this morning. I'm
Mm.
not going to go
Yeah.
here. Or
Yeah.
this past holiday for Thanksgiving, they went and made dinner with their dad all day and I went hiking for 3 or 4 hours, and I spent the
Nice.
afternoon alone, and I played guitar and I wrote, and I
Oh.
felt, and I want to write that down. I want to talk about being alone versus being lonely, feeling lonely. I want to talk about that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt I felt really peaceful in the holiday,
Mm-hmm.
and it looking like that, not looking like that forever, but for
Mm-hmm.
this year. And this may be true, maybe if you're in the middle of divorce, or 10 years from a divorce. If
Mm-hmm.
this is what feels good for you, that's okay. You don't ever have to do anything. You shouldn't be isolated, and you shouldn't like try and say, well, I don't need anyone, or force yourself to be somewhere you don't want to be. It's not about that. It's just like what feels peaceful and what is the best thing for you and for your kids. And did I want to spend the whole day with my kids? Absolutely. Did
Sure.
I
Yeah.
understand? Yeah, their dad's going to make a meal and he enjoys doing that. And that's a connection piece for them. And I was totally okay with that. Holding all of that, you can balance all of that.
I completely agree. And, maybe let's just say again, back to contemplating things and kind of navigating this system, or this season, I should say, maybe one of the pain points in your marriage, and this was true for me to some degree, was spending time with the other family, right? Like spending
Yeah.
time with his family or your ex's family. And maybe now is a good time to see how your spouse shows up when you put that idea out there, or you put
Mm-hmm.
that boundary in place, like, hey, I know that for the last few years we've gone to your parents' house on Christmas Eve or whatever, but I would like to start our own tradition, have Christmas Eve just ourselves, just our family, or just me and like I mean, depending
Yeah.
on where you're at, right,
Yeah.
in your relationship. But maybe that's a good time to kind of put that boundary in there, test those waters, and see how your spouse responds and see how your spouse shows up. Maybe if they give you absolutely no grace and it just is what it is, and this is what we've always done, and this is what we're always going to do, maybe that helps your decision making. Or maybe they surprise you and they're like, hey, you know what? I feel you. I kind of don't want to go either secretly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a moment where you can connect on a deeper level, pushing it in the other direction.
Yeah. Or you can have like me, like I think we did that a few years prior. I said, hey, I'm falling apart here. I can't
Yeah.
go and do all these things in all these places. We're going to hold it here. And if people want to come here, they can come here. And we actually did that for a few years. And so I think when we did get a divorce, it made it easier for me to kind of, I've already changed the game on holidays. I've already
Mm-hmm.
started to look at it differently and let go of the expectation and the guilt. So it was pretty easy for me to transfer into that mindset, if that makes sense, of the sharing the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's an exercise for some people, though, because
Yeah.
that tradition is, depending on who you are and how you were raised or how you've been living your life, you could be pretty heavily steeped in that whole tradition mindset, right?
Well, not only that, but if you, of course, like if you had something going on as a kid, or you had something that like you looked, that was the magical time of the year. That's when
Mm-hmm.
everything seemed okay. I hated
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the year, but if I could just get to Christmas and I get excited and I'm going to get gifts, and you have that hope or that excitement, you may
Yeah.
carry that on with you and feel like you have to lean on into that still, or you have to provide that to your kids when if things are going pretty well during the year with them, you don't need to worry about that so much. But I think maybe sometimes our generation is caught up in the nostalgia of what the excitement of it coming, and we're constantly trying to like maybe play that out for our kids or recreate that for them without
Mm-hmm.
realizing it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love that we're on this trajectory because it made me think of ways to navigate the holidays when you are in the middle of divorce. So,
Okay.
next step.
I think I
Now
jumped
we're
ahead.
in No, you're fine. Next
Okay.
step, now we're in the middle. The separation has happened. Maybe you no longer share a home. And being a child of divorced parents, now I don't remember my parents married, so I don't remember the divorce. So I don't remember what that first year was like. I was really very little. But thinking back, even when they were divorced, dealing with me, I feel like if we had predictable routines,
Mm-hmm.
then that would have helped lower my anxiety
Yeah.
when everything was feeling extra chaotic because it was holidays. Now, I remember,
100%.
and again, my mom might come on and be like, no, we did have that. You just don't remember, because I was really little. But
Yeah.
maybe they didn't communicate it to me too, perhaps.
Mm. Yeah.
I felt like it was very unpredictable for me during that time. And that caused extra chaos for me. I can't imagine what it might be like for a mom juggling all the things as well. I'm
Well, and if,
certain you experienced that.
of course, with both of them, and if being, when one of them it was immediate, no contact, everything through attorneys, and then one of them it was like, okay, we can still talk to each other. Either case, clarity and communication are like number one. Having and knowing what to expect, like you said, not even necessarily the routine, but knowing what I should expect. Because one, if you had a hard time having that clarity in the relationship, clearly you're going to have it in divorce. So
Right.
now it's a new opportunity to try and do things differently and try and say, hey, I know that we kind of, things weren't clear before, but let me be clear now. And one of those things is scheduling, is holidays. It is things like that. Like, what are the expectations? If you can be, I mean, that goes back to honesty. Can you really be honest? I remember my first husband and I sitting in a room with our attorneys, and I think this is one of the like only real honest good exchanges that we had. It was just the four of us, and I was able to say, here's what's important to me, this, Christmas Eve, because my grandfather does it, and this, and he was able to say, well, we don't really do that, but my family does this. And so we agreed right then, okay, let's take that into consideration. And it only worked like a year, and then he was like, no, we're going every other, which kind of sucked. But in that moment, I was able to be honest about what holidays meant the most. And if you can do that with your spouse, whether you're going to divorce them or you're already, and come to some sort of agreement about it, that's really the best thing. Or if you're able to talk to the kids and say, hey, dad wants to do Christmas Eve with you, I want to do Christmas morning with you. And I've even gone to my ex's house for Christmas morning and done the presents with them, and then come home for a little bit and let them do, we work it out. But you don't, I think sometimes we get stuck in this idea that everything has to change or it has to go completely different, and that's not necessarily true. And the other
Totally
piece of
agree.
that is, if you don't get along, because I've sat at the parking lot waiting at the grocery store parking lot with the cops waiting for my daughter on Thanksgiving. I know what that's like. I've done it. Have a clear, whether it's you communicating with an email or through the attorney or whatever, have a clear expectation of what is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
My story is Thanksgiving's on a Thursday. It was my holiday, but Thursday afternoons were his. So who wins? I learned after the fact that the holiday supersedes regular parenting time every single time. But if that's not known, if that's not decided, and the police said, take it up with the court. So yeah, I figured it out later, but I missed that day. And the whole day was about the drama of that. And I was like disgusted. I was just sick all day. But I could have made clear that, hey, this is the plan, right? Because we get stuck in our emotions sometimes that we just, well, we'll wait and see what happens. And we have the anxiety of it. Don't do that. Make sure that you clearly have a plan ahead of time. If you can, for the whole year, for every set of holidays, but at least for the next one upcoming, know exactly what's going to happen so you don't have any sort of guessing game. The kids aren't guessing. You're not guessing. Like, don't make it any more difficult than it needs to be.
I totally agree with that 100%. And thank you for sharing your personal story. I can imagine that that pretty much derailed the holiday spirit for that day, right? Like, and we're
Yeah.
trying to preserve that.
Yeah, well,
Like, we're trying
exactly.
to
It becomes
keep,
all about that.
right, right. And so that's not something that, anybody wishes to bring into their holiday, I'm sure. And
No, and if, I want to add one more thing about that. If I
do,
can cut
yeah.
you off real quick.
Yeah, please.
Try, I can't, and I'm not, I don't beat myself up for it. I was broken. I was lost. I was in a really bad situation with all the fighting and that all the police reports. Well, it wasn't good. So if you're going through the situation, you're not alone. Even the a lot everyone goes through things like this. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. We all have these experiences sometimes that we don't want. But don't try not to bring the drama or the guilt with you when you do the family stuff. I can't tell you
Hmm.
how many times I blocked myself from enjoying Christmas morning because I was thinking about what the email he sent me, or I'm only going to get her until 1 p.m. and so I have to like just be present in the moment with your kids and with your family. Try as much as you can. Try not to bring all that emotion and drama with you into the moment. Write about it if you need to, call someone. But I had a really hard time, and rightly so. Like I was put in a
Yeah,
really lot of unfair situations. But don't try not to bring it with you because energetically, even if you're like, oh, I'm fine, you're not fine.
you're
And
not.
then your kids are just worried about just like regular parenting every day. But then your kids are spending their holiday thinking about the fight that mom and dad had, or
Yeah.
that they have to be pressured to leave at a certain time or whatever. So kind of really be mindful about that when you are with your kids or you do get that time, that we're not distracted by the nonsense of the drama.
Agreed. And what do you think about this? Do you think that that almost trains your children into having that
Mm-hmm.
mode or that feeling throughout the holidays if that like continues and becomes a thing? So remember at the beginning of the show, we were like, hey, depending on your childhood and what you went through, you might be
Mm-hmm.
carrying your own set of emotions. Quite honestly, like one somebody who's very important in my life that I saw quite a bit when I was younger and still do, tended to be in a bad mood through the holidays, tended to be angry throughout the holidays. And I don't know if that's something they carried from their childhood, probably.
Maybe. Yeah.
But since I was so close to this person and spent a considerable amount of time with this person, I sort of started adopting that. And that wasn't even mine.
Oh, yeah. So is parenting. So is what we go through. Yeah, like we not only do we take on those characteristics, but then we start trying to adapt ourselves to help that person or to be malleable for them to make them feel better.
Mm,
And then we're not. Then all goes back to being present, being safe, and being present in your own experience. And it's just like when someone that we know dies around the holidays, and then you
mm,
have that kind of memory, or your body stores it. So even if you love Christmas traditionally, if that happened around that time, it might make you feel sad. It might make you feel um, a lot of emotions that you don't want to necessarily have, but they come up anyways. So being able to be honest about that and not allowing, um, like I don't know, I lost my train of thought there, but basically going back to the getting stuck in the noise of
yeah.
of the circumstance and not the reason for the experience.
Agreed. I think that if you get real intentional,
Yeah.
this works for me anyway. I think if you get real intentional about carving a non negotiable moment of peace, even a
Mm-hmm.
moment, each
Mm-hmm.
day, that's helpful to sort of save yourself from running on emotional fumes later. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's part of what I do every day. Like you have to, when I wake up, I make sure I'm present with that, and before I go to bed, I make sure I'm present with that. So you kind of can clean that slate
Mm-hmm.
on a continual basis. Because if you keep telling yourself you're fine, or you keep running away from what you're really feeling, then these are the moments in which it comes out the most.
Mm-hmm.
These are the moments when you can't get away from it. You cannot compartmentalize it. You cannot pretend that you don't feel that way. This is when it will come out.
Yeah.
And you don't want, like you said, memories for your children. You don't want this to be their memory. You don't
Yeah.
want this. they carry with them. And honestly, I don't think that we realize as moms, especially, like, look, I've been cheated on, I've been alone. I understand that feeling and that pressure and the loneliness. I get it, but you only get so much time with your kids in these holidays.
Yep.
Look, I'm getting choked up. They
I
grow up so
know.
fast,
They truly
and
do.
and I look back on so many of my memories, and I was crying on the couch,
Mm-hmm.
not present, watching her open her present. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
really important for you to be able, like, yes, I feel this way. I deserve to feel this way. This is valid. But I'm going to put it over here for a minute and I'm going to be present in this situation. And then I'm going to come back to it. And being
Mm-hmm.
able to have that, give yourself permission to do that is important.
Yeah.
And not just be ignoring it or not just be caught up in the emotion of it, you know?
Agreed. And and in those moments, do you feel like it's important to sort of let yourself grieve, especially if this wasn't like the vision that you had for life? Like this wasn't, the
Yeah.
plan. And back to pretending you're fine for the kids. Like, where do you go with that? Like, how honest is too honest? How much information is too much?
Yeah.
Where does that boundary fall between this is an adult relationship, and not saying
Yeah.
that kids aren't smart, not saying that, they
Yeah.
don't need to know stuff, but where does that boundary fall?
Don't make it about the divorce. Don't make it about you and dad. Make it about you. You're a
Yeah.
human being. And I recommend this for moms just in general. Be honest with them. I'm feeling a little sad about this. I'm feeling like, that I understand what's going on. I know you guys understand what's going on, but these are the feelings that I'm having. And I want to enjoy this experience, but I want to be honest with you guys. And you can't do that with, I had a 2-year-old. You can't do that with
Yeah.
her. But
Yeah.
now my kids are teenagers and we're so honest and open about that stuff. Like I'll say, hey guys, I'm experiencing a little bit of anxiety because, this is going on. Give me a minute, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I just don't want you to think it's about you.
Yeah.
This is what's going on.
Huge.
Huge. Because they'll always assume it's about them. You will always internalize that it's
Always.
you. And that will play into your self-worth, and that will play into you, I did something wrong, and that will connect them to their experience. It'll stay in those moments. So just have conversations and then ask them, how do you feel? And then validate their feeling,
Yeah.
because it's okay. And there's been times when my kids have told me things I don't want to hear, or like,
Yeah.
I want to be with dad, or I want, there's things that like hurt you, not hurt you, but like it kind of like, oh man, puts you in your feelings a little bit, but they're valid, just like your feelings are valid. So if I'm denying my feelings, but then kind of throwing up energetically, and then they're taking it all in, but then they think they need to deny their feelings, then
Mm-hmm.
you just got complete disconnection, which is how we got to the divorce in the first place. So just connecting with them honestly and leaving dad's part of it or the legal stuff out of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, the perspective from a child that went through this is, I didn't have those issues with either parent that they had with each other, right? Like that wasn't my thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I loved them both and I wanted to protect them both. So I think that we need to keep that in mind. As we're navigating through these conversations, that, and obviously everybody's experience, I guess, is different, right? And there
Yeah.
may be some kids that don't have that connection with the other parent, and maybe that conversation becomes different. But for me, I felt for both of my parents, and it was a really tough it was a tough line for me to walk,
How
because
old are
on
you?
the one hand, so I was 2 when they got divorced.
Okay. Okay.
I was like your daughter, but I had to deal
That's
with
right.
things later, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so, I
Right.
mean, they were divorced for my entire life. So I had to deal with
Yeah.
it for my entire life. And, you know, I, I went through that too, where, hey, yeah, you know what? I want to go over to dad's because I really like the cookies his wife makes. And that'll, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that was
Mm-hmm.
painful for my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and there's all sorts of scenarios like that, and vice versa. Hey dad, no, I want to spend time with mom today
Yeah.
because she's a rock star and she has a really cool Christmas gig coming up and I want to go, she used to let me be backstage and all that stuff. So I felt like I was the coolest kid on the planet because my mom was like a rock star. But we lived in a super
So
small town.
awesome.
Yeah. So there were awesome things about both of my parents, and there were things that I wanted to experience, and I wanted to protect both of them. And that was a really difficult line for me to walk, because I felt like no matter what, I was hurting somebody's feelings.
So you're letting somebody down.
Yeah. And that
Well,
was
let me
tough.
ask you, because I hadn't really thought about that till you're talking. My second divorce, my kids were pretty in the know, especially the older two. Like we know why you guys are getting a divorce. It's unfortunate for kids to know that, but it was pretty obvious. But I
Mm-hmm.
imagine there's a lot of people where maybe they do get along really well, or it's not clearly obvious why they're getting a divorce, and maybe the kids don't know, or
Yeah.
like you, they're so young. So did you ever have that discussion or ever ask like why?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yourself or them or both?
I want to say from as long as I can remember, I had a pretty good idea.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
were kind of
I had a
clued
good
in
idea
too.
of what went down.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and that this is a whole other show,
Right.
but
Yeah.
then you, like, as a kid going through that, you like sometimes feel like you want to take sides, or again with the protection
Hmm.
thing, like sometimes you feel like you want to protect the parent that maybe isn't the most aggressive parent, right? Is
Yeah.
like the more
Yeah.
timid parent. So you want to kind of help them out, and that is just a whole ball game. And I'm happy to talk about that on another show for sure, because
Yeah.
that is a
Yeah.
thing. Um, and I don't know. Again, I didn't have kids when I went through my divorce, so I didn't really go down this rabbit hole. But I don't know if there is really a good forum where kids, especially teens that are going through this, can connect with people like myself that have been through it. And now I'm an adult, and
Help
now I have a
them.
better understanding,
Yeah.
and just kind of talk them through it and be like, yeah, bro, that is valid. I went through that too.
Yeah.
Here are some tips and tricks that I learned maybe later in life, or maybe what helped me go through it, or stuff like that. I think teens really could use that if that isn't
You could.
something that's out there readily available, because it is really uncomfortable, and it can set that stage that now, like, they're imprinting, right? So now,
Hmm.
does that add to the blueprint that they go by once they're adults and they have their own family?
Well, and what I'm thinking of is, um, especially during the holidays, if the kids are frustrated because they have to go to two different things, or they have to leave their house, or I know that like we had, where do they open the presents, where do they keep them, all these little things that come up, and then there's irritation and frustration, and then that can easily turn into like, why am I even doing this in the first place, and why did this happen, and so they can kind of snowball into getting back to the point of like, why am I being punished for this, why do I have to
Yeah.
suffer because you guys couldn't figure this out.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that, like, not that you tell your kids necessarily why you're getting a divorce, but that's why I think it's important to be honest with them that, like, maybe it's not easy for you, or maybe you're not, um, maybe you're struggling. All those things will help them to, you can't just say it's not your fault. This is about us. It's not you. You can't
Mhm.
just say that and leave it there, because they will still internalize that had I done something a little bit different, or maybe if I hadn't even been born or whatever, this wouldn't have happened.
Mhm.
So again, you can't tell them why, but you can definitely have a lot of open-ended conversations about feelings and emotions. And so that whenever something does come up for them, they don't have to just go to the emotion of the divorce, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. What came to me while you were talking is, for me, it was considerably more difficult to navigate my parents' divorce than my own.
Is that because you made it mean something about you?
There's a lot in there, because there's
Yeah.
many, many years of having to navigate it. So
Well, yeah,
there's a
you're
lot
so
in there.
young. You're so young.
And it
Yeah.
it honestly was probably, growing up, the most difficult thing that I had to navigate was my parents' divorce.
Oh, for sure. That was my daughter's whole life. And the
Yeah.
other part of that, you guys, one of these days we'll get you together. The thing that you guys can relate to is that you didn't have another sibling to go through it with.
Nope. There's
And
just
that's what
me,
she talks
myself,
about
and
all the
I.
time. If I would have known, or I would have had someone that I could have told or could have understood, but no one understood me. And I'd come home and there'd be 3 other kids there. And I loved them and they're my siblings, but they had no clue what I was going through.
100%. No clue. Now, there were some stepkids that came in and out, as my parents got remarried and, had other relationships. But I agree with her. Had my same parents been through what I went through, navigated what I went through alongside with me, I certainly would have felt a lot less alone, a lot less frightened. I feel like maybe I would have been just as frightened. I don't know. Maybe we would have been frightened together, but at least we would have been together. And
you would have been able to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the thing with trauma. It's not necessarily your experience, it's not your parents' divorce. It's that what the experience did to you that you weren't able to talk about it or share with somebody.
Or even know.
Or even understand at your young age. And so just it's that talking piece that, like, you have a sibling, even though you guys may not understand what's going on, it may still do a number on you. You're able to express in the moment your fear, your frustration, your anxiety, instead of holding all of it.
100%. And this is back in the day. Like, keep in mind, this is probably 1980, 1981 when this happened. So fast forward 2 or 3 years, I'm in school. Nobody else's parents were divorced. I was like the only kid in super small rural town America that had divorced parents.
Right.
Yikes.
That's a good point, because nowadays, unfortunately, it's so known that my kids can go to school and I've seen them meet other divorce and then they're like, oh, you get it? Oh, okay. And that's helpful. It's really helpful. But back then, I'm sure. Yeah.
And I was really ashamed of it. So did I necessarily lead with that when I met a new buddy? No. I did everything that I could to pretend that wasn't the case, down to calling my step parents, oh, that's my mom, or oh, that's my dad. And it really wasn't. But because they were both there at the function, in the rare occasion, they tried their best. Don't get me wrong, but single parents with jobs and other things going on, you can't always make every school thing, right?
No.
So this again, whole other topic for another show.
Yeah, it is. I was just thinking single parent when you said that like, especially for you moms, you may not be able to give them what you could give them together. And I want to make sure I get that in. Like, it's not about, don't kill yourself trying to get them the $500 thing. It's really, really just about, and I know that, like, this could be a whole thing, but like when you said single parent, it made me think of that. I don't know how many times I've made myself feel bad or feel guilt because I couldn't provide them what they are down the block because they stayed together and I didn't.
Yeah. 100%. No, that's totally a thing. And one last thing that I'd like to close on, just because I think this is difficult for us as moms anyway. But even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it amplifies the pain, even if it amplifies the situation, if you need help, ask for help. Like, we have such a hard time asking for help.
Well, that and real quick on that, being alone versus feeling lonely. It's okay to be alone. Like, it's just a state of being. I love being alone. And we all need times when we're alone. I didn't understand the value of that because I had never been alone. But if you're lonely, if you're feeling the experience of lonely, if you feel, which is really just disconnection, have a plan. Have friends that you're going to spend time with. Have family you're going to spend time with. Have someone to talk to. Don't just sit in your room and cry alone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a small part of it. You need to process things. But have a plan for the holidays. No, I'm not going to have my kid Christmas Eve night and Christmas night. So what am I going to do? And if that means sitting alone and watching Hallmark movies, am I okay with that? Cool. Okay, yeah. But if you're not, and you're not, make a plan, find someone to talk to, and reach out to people, because you don't want to just wallow and it'll just perpetuate everything.
Totally agree. I couldn't have said that better. Thank you so much, my wonderful co-host.
Thanks for being me.
Of course.
Clearly it's still there. And as we're setting up for Christmas last week, all these flashbacks of things, and good and bad and happy and sad, and it's a lot to hold.
It is a lot to hold. I agree with you. Well, thank you for an amazing year. of
Thank you.
podcasting and of
Yeah,
collaborating. You
it's been
are
so
such a
fun.
phenomenal soul, and I appreciate all of your expertise, your value, the experience that you bring to the table, your openness. So
Mm.
thank you for sharing everything that you share. I'm looking so forward to, now I'm crying. I'm looking so
Ah,
forward to 2026,
I
and
know.
really digging in and helping mamas work through what you and I have been through. And quite honestly, as we are sharing here on the show, still processing and still
Yeah,
working through all these years later. So it's a thing, guys. We need to support one another. We need women in our lives that get it, that are supportive, that want to help. And just a real quick plug before we go, you see that there is a QR code here in the corner of our screen, and that is a connection to the Divorce Defenders. Miranda and I are on that team, and it's a team of women that are here to support women that are going through divorce. We all kind of carry our own thing. We do our own little piece of it. I'm the real estate piece. Miranda is the emotion piece, which is really huge in the beginning, middle, and end. So
mm-hmm.
definitely connect with her. But we will see you guys next year. We are so excited for what we have lined up for 2026. We've got some interviews coming up for you. So that's going to be really cool. If you want to check out any of our previous episodes, maybe you didn't hear my story, maybe you didn't hear Miranda's story and you want to, then on our YouTube channel, it is at Mom Nation USA. That's our handle. Scroll down just a little ways on the homepage and you will see the blue playlist called Untying the Knot. That is our playlist. All of our episodes are in there. If you prefer to listen podcast style on your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for Mom Nation Talk Radio. There you will find all of our episodes as well. And if you find that this is bringing you value, the way that you can show us that and give us a little thumbs up, girls, is by subscribing to our channel. So I invite you and encourage you to subscribe. Please do. If you want to buy us a cup of coffee, great. There's a link to do that too.
Share.
Yeah, but share, and like, and subscribe. And that really gives us so much love. You have no idea. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Katie.
Bye.
Feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or disconnected from yourself? Miranda Ray offers one-on-one private sessions designed to help you reconnect with yourself. Gain tools for emotional healing, build confidence, and step into your power with compassionate guidance every step of the way. You deserve peace. You deserve clarity. You deserve to feel good again. Let Miranda help you get there. Take the first step toward a brighter, more balanced you. Reach out to Miranda